Alright. Oh, we were just talking about for the Von Popiel. You just got it. Let those Pampers be peepeed. Here we go. Gambit glasses on. Von Popiel Gambit. Oh, H6. Okay. E6, do we want our pawn back now that we have a pin? Let's just get our material back, right? Oh no, they don't want to take it. Let's take it. Wait, so take? Takes, and they take C3? Take D8, take D1, take C7, take B2. Let's play Queen 2. Let's see if they want this pawn. I want 3 capture knight takes a 3, but I don't want... yes. Okay, we got this. But I blocked my bishop D3. I've blocked some of my favorite resources. It's okay. I think, honestly, I like this. I'm threatening D5, potentially, which could be strong. So they're going to castle. Now here we go with Rook G1, G4. We're just pushing P, as Hikaru would say. As Hikaru would say. He would, yeah. G4, it takes. Okay, maybe we start with Rook G1, although it makes our idea a little obvious. They're doing the same thing, but their idea is not as good because they have a pawn on H6. And the pawn on H6 plays into my favor very, very well. Because G5 is going to be a hook, and it's going to force a pawn trade there, and we want pawn trades when attacking. We want them. Is this a good move? Take, knight D5. No, don't get distracted, William. This is good. G5, trade those off, open the file. Pawn trades are good, not only because they eliminate defenders, but because they get rid of blockers. My rook is free. Rook has been gifted a sock. Rook has been gifted a sock. Oh my god, all these captures are tempting. Every one of them is good. Every one of them has their own purpose. Okay. Okay, let's go bishop. Okay, Queen G2 though, next move, yeah? What do we got? Bishop H6 we should play. Queen G2 also has ideas hitting here. Can I win that? G6. I don't even want that rook. G6, I'm going to play 85. I think that's very strong. It's got a lot of ideas down here as well to win material. And also the strongest idea of all behind 85 is knight takes G6. But G6, potentially, this is just even stronger. Just screw the material. Bishop takes G6. That is not a good idea. I'm just taking everything now, yeah? I mean, G6 wasn't that bad. I think it was losing, but... You can't take here. Why not? Yeah, knight takes E6. Check. Yeah, G-file just killed him. G-file just killed him. That is a very, very important principle when attacking. This is hanging. But this is, I think, is even stronger. Just go back to the well. Just go back to the well. This has been hanging for a while. But just the queen and the rook just causing absolute mayhem. I've just taken everything in their path, the knight and the bishop and the pawn. There was a knight here, and there was a knight here and a bishop here when we started, and they prepared to lose themselves, trying to stop this absolute wrecking ball. But yeah, king castled on opposite sides, right, means attack because it allows me to move these pawns up the board without compromising my own king safety, as if they were on the same side, right? These pawns over here stay flat in front of my king, whereas these pawns can go, right? So it's not on the same side of the board. I want to cause maximum openness and mayhem over here where their king is and my king isn't, right? So that's why it means attack. And as I just figure out the most efficient way to finish this, check and queen G8 should do it. These were both winning equally, I believe. Or G7, I'll take it. It's the only way to keep it going. Okay, GG. Yeah, so it means attack, and the thing is, right, you can actually see this play out exactly. This is a very, very good demonstration of this idea, because them going b4 and my knight just moving out of the way, whether that's to you know, a4 or wherever, that's the end of the road. Like, you play b4, knight a4, okay, what else? What's your next idea? You spent 3 tempi doing this. What's like what next, right? It might have even helped my knight. I'll jump into c5 or something, right? Whereas here, I played g4 and I played g5, the knight can't just jump out the way as if this pawn was on h7, in which case it might have also been a what next situation for me. I would have, okay, maybe tried bishop d3, queen h5, and targeted the pawn on h7, now that I made that knight move. But, okay, the pawn's on h6 means that I can play g5 and really cause a lot of destruction here. I mean, we can have a look at this one real quick. So here we have von Popiel Gambit out of the Scandinavian. If you want to play the von Popiel Gambit every time, just play d4 and then play e4 and like this, right? So bishop g5, we got this exact position. My opponent played an early h6, which is, you know, not super common. It's typically they play this with bishop f5, and then after f3, we have this idea with queen takes f3 to attack here and here. If they played it more how you'd expect, like pawn takes f3, so we had this position, right? My opponent actually just allows me to grab this pawn back. Bishop e7, like, very actually interesting move. But takes, knight takes, what we would do here is we could castle and go for our for this attack. You know what? I think better here, now that I think about it maybe a little bit more, I think better here would honestly be to just play what I did in the game, right? With the pawn on h7, it's a little different, but with the pawn on h6, right? So let me actually be very clear about what I mean, about what's the proper way to attack in this line. So if they played e6 right now, okay, of course this is the best move, but it transposes to a very common French position. But f3 takes. The attack we're going for here with the pawn on h7 would be something like this, with queen e1 and queen h4. I think this is probably the best way to go in this line, because now what we've done is we've taken this diagonal before they've had a chance to play bishop f5. We've taken this diagonal. We don't have this pawn on f2, so we're able to play queen e1, queen h4. And we're pressuring on h7 a great deal, so this knight cannot move. Basically, we want to take that knight and then checkmate them on h7. If h6, we could take and checkmate them nonetheless, right? Even if they try to support that knight one more time, we can try to get rid of the knights. Just sacrifice there, take on h7. Okay, so we're going to force them to play g6, and then at some moment, okay, the rooks can jump into the... Here, knight takes e7 is actually winning a piece. But the rooks can jump in, queen h6, like all these nice ideas to attack once you've provoked such a weakness like that. What black needed is to be able to have bishop f5 themselves, because then if we tried the same idea, we don't have bishop on d3, and without that, the queen on h4 really does nothing here, and black is totally fine. The point of this, and why it's so much better than the black Mardemer, in my opinion, black Mardemer is with f3 right away, and all black really needs to know is to put this bishop on f5. I mean, that's not all black needs to know, but play e6, bishop e7. If you trade this, you don't have another light square bishop to attack with. Honestly, with the bishop on f5, they're fine. The point of the von Popiel is to be able to counter this idea. So we play this one move first. We are able to counter this idea of bishop f5 by now having queen takes f3, with the bishop comes there too early, and now we're threatening to both of these things, and there's some very, very fun lines in the von Popiel Gambit on my channel in this position. What happened in the game is my opponent plays h6 very early. When they play h6 very early, now what's going on here, so for example, if bishop f5 was played, we would still be going to queen takes f3 and attacking here and here. Always queen takes f3 with the double attack if we can, if they jump there too early. My opponent opted to leave the bishop back, so e6. So you would think that would be kind of the same way to attack, and you could do it. The difference is that the bishop's on h4 here. The bishop should be over here on this diagonal to now threaten against this h6 pawn. So queen d2 and a bishop there could threaten maybe bishop takes h6, which could be very, very strong. Not that white still doesn't have compensation here, but there's no real clear plan of attack without the queen coming to h4. If we had this position with the bishop and the pawn here and h6 was played, I would probably either just take the knight or back up along this diagonal. But here we had to, early on, it was played early on enough that we can't just play bishop f4. There would be no point to putting it here. The bishop needs to stay along this diagonal for the pressure. So bishop h4 was played. What we can do instead in this line, if my opponent were to just play pawn takes f3 in the game, is now switch up our plan of attack and take advantage of the fact that they played h6 very early. So for example, now they're castling, we're castling as well, but long ways instead of short ways. Now you can also do this if their pawn is flat on h7. So for example, let's say, you know, this is totally playable. Let's say they play like an d7 or something, some move blocking the bishop. Okay, they've blocked the bishop. Now that's key with either e6 or knight d7. They've blocked the bishop. Now we can play knight takes f3. We don't. The only point of queen takes f3 is to attack here and here. Otherwise, you should just recapture knight. They've blocked the bishop, so this diagonal will be ours, right? If we want it with bishop d3. You could instead also just play it like this, but it holds a lot more advantage for white if they've played h6. If they've played h6, then this idea becomes really, really nice. Rook g1, g4, and g5. You could play like this as well, but this is, for example, in this position, you know, here, okay, let's say white plays a move. h6 would be a really bad choice. h6 would be a really bad choice because now we just need to back up anywhere, and now rook g1, g4, g5, it gives us a hook to attack, and I'll show you more about what I mean by a hook to attack. So, in the game here, we did get something like this. We did get something very similar like this. So bishop h4, e6, f3, bishop e7. I'll tell you why I played queen to e2, even though the engine hated it. Engine wanted queen takes d4. I didn't think... My opponent seemed to be a Gambit denier. I didn't think it would happen. But so, rook d1. Okay, apparently my king still has a lot of issues. My king has a lot of issues. So losing the b2 pawn and potentially dealing with bishop b4, not fun. So wouldn't recommend. I didn't want f takes e4 here. This is going to be a tangent. I'm confusing you guys too much. Let me get back to that. But so, okay, we played queen to e2 and we got a structure like this, right? Basically is the point. So, right, whether they played e takes f3 now or later is a little bit immaterial. Knight takes f3, knight c6, castles, castles, right? So we got a structure like this, except the pawn's on h7, the pawn's on h6. Why does that make a big difference? Is the idea I was touching on earlier, right? So we're playing here rook to g1. And so now after, so they're doing something, a6, g4, b5. My idea is so much stronger than their idea. Even though we both have kings and they're both relatively protected by pawns, why is g4, g5 attacking the knight in front of their king so much better than b5, b4 attacking the knight in front of my king? It's because I don't have a pawn on a3. If I had a pawn on a3 and they had a rook on b8, it would probably be, you know, the same deal. Although, you know, their queen is blocked by a pawn that exists here, whereas I've sacrificed this pawn, so my queen got over to g2 to attack really, really quickly. But nonetheless, this pawn's on h6. It makes a huge difference, and it's a move you absolutely never want to play if the kings are castled on opposite sides. Why? Because it presents a hook. You want a pawn trade if you're attacking. You want a pawn trade if you are attacking, if you are pushing pawns. The point of pushing pawns is only to trade pawns. Don't waste your time pushing them up the board if you're never going to get anywhere, right? Otherwise, like, you know, this can even come all the way here. Yes, it can still be good, but it takes a lot of time, and I'm just going to execute the push-past rule, right? If this knight weren't here, I play g5. If black could play h5, then this might all be for naught. So you need to make sure that, like, if you play g5, that h5 is not an option. You can, like, take it. Don't let them execute the push-past rule, which would deny pawn trades. What works well for me here is that g5 hits the knight, so they have no choice but to play h takes g5. And after bishop takes g5, I have achieved a huge goal. And you know, my opponent probably didn't understand the gravity of how important getting rid of that pawn for that pawn really is, but it is absolutely huge. The queen shifts over to g2, and as you saw in the game, this was just a total wrecking ball, just with the very simple idea of rook g1, g4, g5, and the very simple point of this pawn being on h6 instead of h7. If the pawn were on h7 in this position, I still have some compensation here, but it's a totally different story. Imagine this pawn's on h7 here, and black just plays knight d5. Okay, what do I do next? Like, what do I do next? I need to find a whole new target. I need to find a whole new way to make a threat. Like, a bishop needs to come to d3, or like rook comes to g3, h3, right? Some way to attack this. Okay, that's going to take time. Maybe black can generate something in the meantime. I don't know. But my pawns are flat, which is good for opposite sides castles. For same side castles, this is a different story, because my king here, I would not just be playing g4, g5 willy-nilly necessarily if my king, if I was going to compromise the safety of my king. So g5 was played here, and after bishop takes g5, let's demonstrate why the g-file is just so powerful. So my opponent is already panicking with this move knight to h7. It makes sense if they play bishop b7, just bishop h6, and you can just see the power here. Just getting totally unleashed. Attacking here, g6 is giving me this rook at minimum and this king at maximum. Bishop h3, yeah, bring more pieces into the game. Bishop takes e6 is now a huge threat. Pawn takes, and then queen takes e6, or rook takes g6. All these things are and the king is just completely crumbling over the power of this file, the rooks, the queens. Everything's just playing, and it's just going to completely crush them. There's really not a chance against sacrifices like this, just pouring on in. Black didn't really generate much other than, they're still up their precious pawn, but okay, my pieces are just so much better than a pawn. Knight to h7 was played so that they could have bishop f6 against bishop h6, which is a sensible defensive strategy. I didn't even play the best move, queen g2. It's saying even stronger is queen e4, using the fact that this knight is also a target as a result of b5. You should use all your tactical resources, unprotected pieces. You know, you should always take note of unprotected pieces, because something like queen to e4 could be like check, for example, and just pick that off. So anytime a piece is unprotected, you should take note of that. That's where tactical patterns come from. So you can see here, like something like this, and bishop b7, bishop d3 really just ends the game. There's no way to not get checkmated if you're black, because that knight can't move. It has no squares to get out of the way. That poor knight. G6 would just fall victim to the rook takes g6 with this pawn out of the way. I mean, that's another note, like, in general, like, if you can play g4 and just get them to take it, rook g1, like, that could be, like, a very, very, very worthwhile sacrifice if kings are castled on opposite sides like this. Okay, queen g2, similar idea. Also have aims of this, but it's just very simple. Why not just stack right there, attack here? g6 wasn't even played. Yeah, like I said, I was going to play an e5. Lots of ideas here with a pawn recapture here, attacking the queen. Lots of pressure on c6. And, of course, the biggest idea of all, knight takes g6. I think also something like bishop d3 and trying to play bishop takes g6 is also plenty here. So knight g5 was just played out of desperation, and after takes, f6, bishop h6, we go back to the well of attacking here. All the meanwhile, this is hanging. Yeah, I don't think this is worth a pawn. I don't think this was worth the extra pawn in the opening. And it's why my opponent actually had no intentions whatsoever. You can see here, my opponent had no intentions whatsoever accepting the gambit. And it's why I go back here. You got to be careful, because there's actually a couple of other patterns at play in this position. One being that if I were to play f takes e4, I think, although the Stockfish might be disagreeing with, oh, now it's agreeing with me, is that knight takes e4 is an option. So this is kind of an interesting position. So it's calculating exactly what I was calculating during the game. So knight takes e4, black's up a pawn at this exact moment. So if we just kind of trade pieces, black stays up a pawn, and I kind of am without compensation. I don't really like the trades that just happened. So knight takes e4. Okay, I could play bishop takes e7. So now if they recapture here, now I'm up a piece, right? Okay, but then here come the lines. So knight takes e3. If I now just allow the dust to settle, they're just up a pawn for nothing. So dust can't settle. Takes. Again, don't let the dust settle. I'm just down a pawn for nothing here. So we've got to keep the dust going, and we get some line like this. I was actually talking about this during the game. It's like bishop takes e7, knight takes b2. But, okay, somehow this is some position here. Here, knight a4. And I have some compensation for the pawn. Okay, that's the line I was looking at. I didn't want that. So I didn't want the knight within range of my queen at all. It's also why I didn't choose queen d2. Because if I chose queen d2, I again can't play f takes e4 here, because I think there's knight takes e4, which attacks my queen, which is really annoying. It attacks my queen, and so again, like bishop takes e7, knight takes d2, I would have to deal with this garbage again. So I was like, just put me on e2, where this knight is not going to hit my queen. So maybe I actually still have knight takes e4 here. Oh my god, I cannot avoid this stupid knight. Here, takes, it's still attacking me here. Okay, what was I supposed to do? It's saying, yeah, it's saying just go for this. How do I get out of the way? I think, honestly, just queen d2 is fine. Castles, just castles. I have no intention of taking here, right? So, like, takes, knight takes f3, if they finally do it, okay, we're in business here, g4, g5. Really fun attacking ideas from the Von Popiel Gambit. And it's really nice that I played this right on cue. You guys were like, wow, Lord help your opponent who faces a Von Popiel Gambit. And yeah, I hope this was a useful lesson. Attacking is not just, it's partially about the mindset of having the confidence and wanting to attack. That's good. That's a prerequisite. But there's a lot of different attacking ideas. And I hope this demonstrated a really important one to you guys, both in the queen e1, queen h4 maneuver, which I have a lot of videos about, but also the importance of opposite side castling and the sheer importance of open files. These pawns are really just in the way in those situations. Let those rooks free. Let them fly. Those are your key attackers in opposite sides castling. Okay, subscribe if that goes on YouTube. I really appreciate all the compliments, guys. GCRU. Okay, I'm black this game. What do you want to see here? Let's see. Do you want to see a London Crusher 9000 by chance? Ooh, d5 is a good line. Let's play g6 and bishop here. My opponent, I sense, knows what they're doing. Let's just get a quick castle. Oh, this seems ambitious. Let's try to, like, undermine this a little bit. I feel like I've gotten this same position before. Rook e8. Are they gonna castle? Rook e8 here. Don't let me do this to you. Can I play b5? Or like something fun? Takes. F5? B5. I feel like I've gotten this before. What's going on after b5? I feel like I've gotten this before. Okay, whatever. We'll find out what's going on after b5. Lots of things hopefully opening up here as I distract one of these guys. And hopefully we can open this. Castles. Do I actually have anything? Like, what's my next move? Takes to c takes? b4 and 8b5. That might be good for them. It's not good for them. Okay, let's go takes. I'm not sure this is best. I think maybe just trading last turn was better. Okay, but I was just talking about the importance of open files over here. Let's see if I can do it. Although this is a little different. It is admittedly a little different. Because they're actually their position's pretty nice. Their pieces are pretty nice. And I can't hop on that B file quite yet. Hopefully soon. Can I play takes knight b6 and win the bishop? That's kind of my idea. I only have 27 seconds. Oh, this is terrible mismanagement of the clock on my part. Let's just be really quick. Yeah, my next move is just rook b8. Yeah. c7. Oh, knight c4 I missed. No, I didn't miss it. Would have had to trade queens. That would have sucked. Okay, can we collaborate over here? Can we collaborate? Beautiful symphony on the pieces. That could get in there. Would be nice. Queen of 6. Bishop on c6. Control some squares. But it's not everything. Yeah, I'm not too worried about this pawn. Okay, I don't have rook a8, but it's fine. This seems very strong now as the pieces harmonize in attack. So we opened the B file. We had the long-term vision that the B file would cause problems, and it is causing lots of them. Oh my goodness. Both are very strong. Bishop takes b2, forced king d2, but I need her in the game. King d2, she's the finisher, no? How do I get him with just the bishops? Is she not the finisher? Rook c2, king b1. Just like check and win something? Okay, no, that's like checkmate. They need to stop me. That's checkmate? Is that really gonna be true? Yeah, just here. I didn't move the queen once the whole game. This is gonna be checkmate after rook takes d3. That is crazy to attack without a queen. The queen, I guess there were a couple moments where like she protected the d6 pawn. Is my opponent gonna stall out? Are they that salty? They're getting reported. They're stalling out. Oh my goodness, guys. Look at this. Look at this. They're stalling out against the arena clock. It's at 12 seconds right now. Oh, okay. It auto lost for them. They're getting reported, and then I'll look at this game. That is despicable behavior. I have no tolerance for stallers. They are just so salty. Absolutely no tolerance for you. Please normalize reporting opponents who stalled against checkmate in 1. Please report. You are doing good work for the sanctity of Lichess and chess.com. Am I doing it? Okay. My opponent here, let's have a look at this as the arena winds down. d4, knight f6, bishop f4, c5. So it was a London player who plays d5. And those are kind of a rare breed because it's a very non-London structure to suddenly be putting your pawns on light squares. What was that virtue in? b4, b5, bishop b2, a5. That's funny. Alright. Wait, so let's have a look here. So d5, yeah, g6 is just a nice way to play against it. The bishop now has nice scope here without this there. So e3 and queen b6, this is the start of the London Crusher 9000 line. d5 here, it's also a line, and so white is playing a little differently. The bishop on f4 is not necessarily consistent with it, but they do take a lot of space really quickly. So e4 and e6, so we're immediately trying to chip away right there. Queen c2 makes a lot of sense to try and get out of here ASAP. You can imagine something like knight f3, rook e8, bishop d3, and I think already maybe black has something like, yeah, takes, c takes, maybe c4 or something like this. Try some sort of way to put pressure, trying to take one of these things before that king leaves the center, where the rook is open. I don't know here. Maybe c4, just bishop c2 is okay. This is, yeah. I mean, white's potentially able to get out of the center quick enough anyway. But queen c2 castles makes a lot of sense. I played rook e8, knight f3. And yeah, okay, again, it's wanting me to just take and play d6 here. But I went for it. I played this ambitious try b5, trying to cause some mayhem, like knight takes b5, maybe like knight takes e4 or something like this. I don't know. I had dreams of something like this, but it doesn't necessarily work. I guess I was a little in over my head when you turn on. Somehow they work during the games, and then I turn on Stockfish, and it's like, well, maybe these ideas weren't the best. But b5, my opponent just castles out of it after his takes, and my opponent plays e takes, which is not the best. Oh, e5 is a tough move to find. e5 is a really nice try, so now the knight moves in cd5. This feels very hard to find over the board. cd5 here is not a great choice, presumably because the b4 makes the knight move, and then we take it. But again, somehow the bishop is doing a good job. So like the knight can always come into d6 or c7 here. In the game, he takes d5. We trade on c4. And long-term, the vision of I achieve b5 and I achieve pawn takes c4, long-term, I had dreams of a rook and a bishop collaborating here on b2. Right? We were just talking about opposite side castles getting the open file. My opponent does not have an open file. Right? So if they're able to achieve something like h4, h5, which is a very standard way you see to attack a fianchetto, h4, h5, trade, and then especially, you know, if they can play bishop h6, so trade this, right? Okay, and then you can imagine the queen can just waltz right into h6, and then waltz right into h8 long term, right? That could be a way to checkmate against a fianchetto. However, you know, bishop h6, okay, I would meet with probably bishop to h8, so that the bishop can stay on the board here, which is also, in addition to being a defensive weapon, is also a very strong offensive weapon, as was demonstrated in the game. So my opponent plays in the center of the board, which makes a lot of sense. You know, you can't really go wrong playing in the center of the board. And I think if h4 here was a little hasty, like bishop f5 or bishop g4, was all good spots, and the rook comes to b8, and, you know, they've got to deal with this. So it makes a lot of sense here for them to try to trade some guys. Rook e1, bishop f5, queen comes to a4, but the queen on a4 actually allowed me to play knight d7, because takes d6, I have knight b6 with tempo on a queen, so that I would be winning the bishop in this position. Oh, I have ID. Bishop takes d6 is never really possible. Apparently, bishop h6 check is nasty. Look at that, with these two b's just screaming down against the king, which should be on a1, I guess, to avoid this issue. So this bishop needs to stay on f4 to prevent bishop h6 check, which should have given me an idea in general of playing knight h5, chasing this guy away, trying to play bishop h6. Interesting. So, yeah, you can really get a king like that. You can really get a king like that with the bishop there. I wasn't even thinking about that because the c-file was closed. But you can really get a king like that with just like that. just like that, out of nowhere. Bishop h6 check. So knight d7 was played bishop b5, which doesn't help matters for white, because my knight zigzags in to b6, and after takes, we just play something like rook b8, knight c7, and everything has gone really, really swimmingly for me here. This knight just, well, okay, maneuvered to c7, and it's actually doing its part. It got out of the way for this bishop, and also it allows knight c4 without me having to trade queens, right? Last turn, knight c4, I would have had to trade queens. That would have sucked. Knight c7, let's keep them on. Well, even if my queen didn't do anything, I didn't want to have to play rook takes d8. I wanted my rook here. And now, yeah, takes a7. I mean, it's just so greedy. Here comes knight c4, and look at these pieces. Just, you know, the knight and the rook alone attack b2, and b3 is off the table because the bishop takes c3. And there's just so much pressure right here. The rook and the bishop have achieved the long-term dream that I had set in motion so many moons ago when I played this move b5, just trying to open that file for when they castle here. Yeah, I want that file open, because now here comes my rook to b8. Same idea we talked about last game, similar concept. The rook and the bishop are coordinating here very, very nicely on b2, and it's just absolutely brutal. There's just no way to defend this. There's no way to defend this whatsoever. My opponent was like trying to get their bishop to c6 so they can grab this one pawn without having to deal with rook a8. Okay, you can have fun with your pawn. I'll have fun with your king. There's no way to defend this whatsoever. Knight a4, I mean, it's just going to give another attacker right there. And to make matters worse, I also have a light square guy. I have a light square guy which will make positions like this, right, literally just straight up checkmate, even if my queen can't join the party, which, okay, maybe she could in some lines, but it's just straight up checkmate. So you saw here something like that happened in the game. Oh, knight a4 was played, actually. Knight takes b2. This was even stronger. Bishop takes b2 because it forces knight takes, rook takes b2. Okay, and this is checkmate next turn with the knight controlling here and the bishop controlling here. So, yeah, okay, queen b7 is the engine's recommendation. Not in a good situation when that happens. In the game here, knight takes b2, takes, rook takes, and, yeah, it's still checkmate because the bishops are very strong. And I got my pawn back, by the way. Bishop g5 was played, check, and checkmate. I would have been kinder to my opponent in this analysis, but they stalled, and I don't have any respect for stallers whatsoever. So, GG. And yeah, open files against the enemy king when they castle. What can I say? What can I say? My opponent, for their part, should, yeah, queen a4, bishop d3, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. This bishop wasn't really doing anything, and this guy, yeah, as you saw, it caused a lot of problems. And then from here, okay, I think, you know, after trade, I think white has an okay position and, you know, some decent counterplay. It's not easy for me to just play knight d7 and rook b8 when bishop takes d6 can happen now. So I think white here is okay. Okay, GG.
William Graif, the Gambit man, takes his seat at the board. e4, e5, knight f3, bishop c5. The Bushgas Gambit on the board. On with the Gambit classes. Hero pod unlocked.